everything Bryony tells you?
This is a story about a young girl with a very powerful literary imagination.
Love is all very well, but you have to be sensible.
Her observation, her curiosity, leads her into making a terrible mistake, which blights her life.
Her writerly imagination destroys her sister and her sister's lover, Robbie Turner, and it's about how she also uses storytelling to try and heal that.
I'm very, very sorry for the terrible distress that I've caused.
It can be painful making the transition from a novel to a movie. It really involves a kind of demolition job.
I was on holiday in Thailand and read the book and found it, I mean, I like all Ian's books, but this one I found particularly powerful and moving and so on. And I actually thought as I was reading it, well, this would make a really good film. I bribed him. I took him to a beautiful house in Tuscany, and we wrote it in a tower overlooking vineyards, and it was heaven.
Everybody has said to me what a wonderful movie it would make, but there are particular problems here. It's a very interior novel. It moves inside the consciousness of several of the characters.
It's always quite frightening to do adaptations of books like that people really love. And I think although obviously we've had to make some changes, it's always impossible to do a completely faithful adaptation when you've only got about 2 hours to do it in. But I think what we have managed to be incredibly truthful to is that the feel that the book has.
I read the script first and fell in love with the story. It was the finest script I've ever read in my life. But I didn't want to read the book until I got the part, because I knew that whatever made this script was going to be exceptional, and I would be gutted if I wasn't involved.
It's a really interesting piece because it's not a comfortable film and it's not a comfortable book, and actually having read the book afterwards, you suddenly realise how there's this incredible tension that goes all the way through. It's sort of like being in a pressure cooker that explodes about halfway through.
Robbie?
Yes.
Why don't you talk to Robbie anymore?
I do. I just move in different circles, that's all.
It's very important that Keira was involved from the outset, for many reasons. One, that it's solidifying a working relationship with Joe. Keira's best work to date was in Pride and Prejudice, and in the 2 years that have elapsed since making that film to making this, she's grown considerably as a person and as an actress.
I was just desperate to work with Joe Wright again. We'd had an incredible time on Pride and Prejudice, and I am a huge fan of his work. So I just I wanted to work with him again, and I think I probably would have done anything.
When we worked together on Pride and Prejudice, she was very young, and so I imagined her still to be the kid who made Pride and Prejudice with me. I hadn't seen her for a few months, and suddenly there was this completely changed person in front of me. And it was at that point that I thought she should play Cecilia.
What fascinated me about Cecilia was that she's not particularly likeable at the beginning. She's kind of edgy, she's tense, and you wouldn't necessarily go, oh, she's a goodie, she's one of our main characters. I think it's the fact that she could be an incredibly good person underneath, but for some reason she's being horrible to everyone. And I think it makes characters more realistic, and I think what I was interested in was this idea that there's this girl who she seems to have everything, and yet she doesn't have anything that she wants, and she doesn't know what direction she's going in. The pressure inside her and the tension is building and building and building, and she doesn't know why.
That's who we met on the way in.
Robbie.
I told him to join us tonight.
Oh, Leon, you didn't.
So, Robbie, the housekeeper's son, whose father did a bunk 20 years ago, gets a scholarship to the local grammar. The old man puts him through Cambridge. Goes up at the same time as C, and for 3 years she hardly speaks to him. Wouldn't let him within a mile of her Rodine chums.
Look, I really think you should go down to the lodge and ask him not to come.
Why? Something happened between you?
For God's sake.
James McAvoy is someone I've wanted to work with for a long, long time. I've always offered him roles in my stuff, and he's always turned me down. I eventually offered him this role, and he accepted, and for which I was very grateful.
He is almost angelic, I think, in that he's so serene, and I just don't know anybody like that. I've never met anybody like that, so it became very difficult. Then after the huge incident, and after the war, he becomes somebody very disillusioned, very angry, very bitter, very defensive, very weak as well, because he's been so damaged. And I know lots of people like that, so it became much more about playing a human being, I think.
Dearest Cecilia, the story can resume. The one I had been planning on that evening walk. I can become again the man who once crossed the Surrey Park at dusk in my best suit, swaggering on the promise of life.
Normally when you cast a film like this where you have different actors playing different ages of the same character, you start with the adult one. But what we did is we started with the child one. So Saoirse just sent a video of herself performing a few of the scenes that she'd done with her dad in their front room, and it was stunning. And here was this, freakishly talented little Irish kid who could somehow transform herself by sheer power of her own imagination.
I can't think of another character in cinema which has been played by 3 different actors. 2, yes, but not 3.
I hate plays. So do I. How can you hate plays? It's just showing off. You'll be in this play or you'll get a clout. She's not the type of child that has to be with other children constantly like some children would be. She can just go off by herself and do her own thing, and she just absolutely loves to write stories and plays and everything like that. So she's a bit of a control freak as well.
I suppose you're going to be Arabella.
Well, not necessarily.
In that case, do you mind if I play her?
Lola was in the school play.
Do say yes, because that's a decent thing to happen to me in months.
Well, yes, all right.
I suppose we should start by reading it. If you're going to be Arabella, then I'll be the director, thank you very much.
So